All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me and Grant in lockdown Melbourne. Not quite sure what this is. This is a bit of our chats that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. It's the second installment that we've recorded. We did have a really funny name, and then we realised that there's a Sunderland fan group in the UK. We've already got that name, so we're open to options. If you've got a good idea, text in. Grant, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. Melbourne lockdown. Not a lot we can do, to be honest. So we've got to, keep doing what we're doing and putting some, average content like this out for the time being, and then it will get better. And we do thank everyone that didn't tune in last week to this week's instalment. But yeah. So are you all good, mate? How are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well. Yeah, looking forward to having a good chat again. Something that you can look forward to now is that you can. The good thing about Melbourne is there's heaps of sport at the minute, so it's something we can all kind of rally around and keep ourselves occupied with. So, and obviously the weekend is a big one. So, I guess there's a few bits that are going on.
Exactly. Well, where do we begin? Let's say, Champions League football still going ahead. I know the mighty Liverpool fell to the sword, but the competition still goes on. But some interesting games, actually. Obviously, Red Bull Leipzig, they progressed to obviously the semi-final, which was probably a bit of a shock, given it was Atletico Madrid. I don't know if you saw any highlights at all, but I certainly didn't pick that one to get to the semis.
Especially after the way Atletico played against us. And there's an argument to say that game, the game that they knocked us out, was one of the best performances we've had of the season. Right. I guess it's a testament to them that they came through that. I thought they'd go all the way to the final this year. They've just got that style, and I know it's obviously defensively minded, but I think it's effective in Europe, especially. They've always been in and around that competition for the last couple of years. So Leipzig do really well to get past them, and it'd be interesting to see now how that matches up in the next round once they get through the
PSG. And that's the thing, and that's the interesting thing for me is both in Europe at the moment, in Europa League and Champions League, these one-leg ties are interesting because Leipzig versus Atletico. How would they feel as an away game in Spain? It's dogged. It's 10 people behind the ball, whatever it would be. Whereas these ties, it's got to be done on the night. Now the winning goal for Leipzig, I mean, I'd chalk it off, to be honest, because it was just a pathetic goal. It was like a mad deflection. It was a massive deflection. I mean, those types of goals, if I'd just be blowing them like, that's just a rubbish goal. No one's going out on that. But that's good.
Guy as well, wasn't he? He scored.
Yeah, first goal ever, or something like that for him.
Joking, really?
But and obviously the game, the day before, obviously with that Atalanta and PSG, that was kind of, PSG left it late, but they got it done, which is all that matters. But the interesting thing,
they'd have had a good chance of going through against Leipzig now. But they've never quite done it in Europe, have they? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, this is Sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was going to say, well, the interesting thing is for me is, so Leipzig has made it to a Champions League semi-final. Now, Leipzig have only been going for 11 years as a club, and they've made it to a Champions League semi-final. And I was looking at Paris Saint-Germain, and Paris Saint-Germain have made it to the Champions League semi-final. And this is only the second time at a semi-final in the Champions League.
Wow.
Which I find crazy.
Especially with the backing that they've got. You'd have thought that, you have to just look at the squad on paper. But it just shows, I guess you've got to have that experience in Europe, haven't you? In those latter stages. And the ability to get through on a two-legged tie, which I think comes with a lot of experience. So, it'd be interesting to see. Again, I think if you were putting your money somewhere, you have to look at PSG and think they'll get one over on Leipzig. But in Europe, you never know. Yeah,
I know. And it's quite, and obviously on the other side of that, obviously tomorrow morning for us, 5 a.m. It's always generous that time, of course, in Australia. But Bayern Munich and Barcelona, which will be a fantastic game, and then obviously the winner of that plays Man City, the winners of Man City versus Lyon. Now, I I know when I said to you at lockdown, put all your money on Man City and different things, safe bet. But Bayern Munich, for example, if they get past Barcelona, which I think they will, they're more of a team. Yes, Barcelona do have Messi. Football's easy with Messi. Football's easy with Ronaldo. We know that. But Bayern Munich are a strong team. And on paper, if they do get past Barcelona, they are probably the only team, I think, that would be able to stop like a Manchester City. Now, that's paying disrespect to Lyon, because Lyon, essentially, was in Manchester City's group this season. Lyon beat Man City at the Etihad 2-1. And away from home, it was 2-2. So Man City haven't beat Lyon this season. And yet the bookie odds over here, they're paying 11-1 for Lyon to get through. And I think that's a joke.
That's insane. I would never have thought it'd been that much, especially given that they've played them twice and haven't beat them.
I know. And that's how, any casual bettors out there, that might even be worth. I know. I'm thinking, for a one-legged tie as well, anything can happen. We've seen that anything can happen over 90 minutes over extra time. That might honestly be worth a punt, because
post-lockdown, City have looked good. They have looked strong, haven't they? Like you said, you're coming into this once they restarted the competition. You'd have bet your house on City, just the way they were coming into it. And the fact that it's a one-legged tie, again, looking at the squad. But at 11-1, I fancy a bit of Lyon there. I think that game tomorrow will be fascinating. I was saying to you earlier, I don't even know if he can play, but how good would it be if Coutinho could just bag a winner there for Munich?
It's those types of games that are made for him, No one can find a breakthrough. It's kind of backs to the wall, bit of a tense game. Not really a wide game. It's kind of down the middle. They're feeling each other out. Coutinho turns 25 yards out, top corner.
He's a master of that. But I'm assuming Barca would have some kind of clause in there where we can't play. But I don't know. Maybe. It would be good if we could. I guess we'll find out first thing tomorrow.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say, there's something in the water, because I've never liked PSG. Like in the last couple of years, United did them last year. They've always had that. It's kind of kind of like Man City, really. The Champions League ghost is always. It's like a mental thing. So I'm actually gonna predict right now. I'm gonna say an all-German final, and I'm gonna say Leipzig versus Bayern Munich.
That'd be incredible. That'd be really incredible.
An all-German final.
I don't fancy City winning it. I don't want them to be claiming champions of Europe next.
Likewise. They're all a common enemy, of course. So
something we can agree on. There's not much on this, but there we go. We'll have that one.
So that's the Champions League. So that'll be very, very interesting. As I say, some good teams left in. Going for Leipzig for the upset, getting to the final, and because their coach as well, Julian Nagelsmann, being a young, I mean, I know it's not.
He's younger than Messi and Ronaldo, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And I mean, this isn't anyone that didn't tune into last week. It's not an Eddie Howe backing podcast, by the way, but you look what he's doing, semi-final of the Champions League, and you'd like to think somebody like him, and if it is an all-German final, somebody like him would they'd be a front runner in the next couple of years for the Bayern Munich job, I would say.
They like to kind of promote those young German managers through, don't they? He's got an interesting story as well. I think wasn't he? I think he was at Leipzig, or he was. I'm not sure.
Augsburg. Was he Augsburg?
Yeah. And he was like 19, 21, something like that. Got an injury, and I think they asked him to go and do some scouting. And that from there he's kind of progressed as a coach, and now at a really young age he's Champions League semi-final.
And the fairy tale story is that he was told to do scouting and go out and start to learn his trade under Thomas Tuchel, who is the Paris Saint-Germain manager who he faced in the next round. So it does come around full circle.
Little stories you can link together. Awesome.
And then and thinking way ahead, of course, let's say if it is a Leipzig Munich final, Leipzig would have played them a couple of times this year. Leipzig may have, they'll know each other pretty well in terms of a blueprint and the way they're going to play. And this is a Leipzig that have lost Timo Werner, by the way. It makes you wonder whether Werner thinks to himself, should I just stuck around till the end of the season? Maybe. And again, I know it's all ifs and buts at this point, but Leipzig getting to a Champions League semi-final without the top striker is pretty impressive.
No, good on them. And I guess they've got the back in there, big Red Bull. There's only the only way is up for those guys.
Exactly. Gives you wings and all that. So,
good stuff.
I
guess moving on from that, you've got your men midweek. They're nice in the Europa League.
Yeah, I'm actually really quite worried because, and I said to you, I was kind of, spoke to you in the week about this. Like, Wolves are the team that we kind of know, and yes, Wolves are a great team. Of course, I know you said that this is probably this team is probably the only time they'll be together again, really, with people maybe coming in for them. But Sevilla's an interesting one. They are an interesting one because those types of teams, the Europa League has always been synonymous with Sevilla in recent years. They've won it like 5 times.
To win it.
I know they're not. Was it Klopp's first?
Yep.
He's in his second season. I think he got you guys to the final against Sevilla. Maybe, Europa League.
I think that was the end of his first season. First season.
Yeah. Okay. So they're a good side, and as I say, that they always have these players that you've never really heard of, and they seem to turn it on.
Yeah.
And you just go, and then they get snapped up by Europe, so I'm actually really worried about that because, and famously, Seville knocked Manchester United out in 2018 in the Champions League. That was Jose as manager.
Yeah.
But the thing is with that tie is we didn't show up for 170 minutes. Like, it was only the last 10 minutes of the second leg where we actually went for it, scored a goal, but it wasn't enough. They beat us 2-1 at Old Trafford. Yeah. We did a 0-0 away from home. And I mean, for me, setting up 0-0 away from home is criminal. In a European tie, because away goals are valuable.
Yeah.
You don't set up for a 0. If anything, you go out all attacking because you just don't set up. But anyway, that was the Jose way. We'll move on from that. But and yet, so I'm really worried. I'm on paper they go, I've got a sneaky feeling that when the draw was made, everyone's gone Man United versus Inter. That's the fairy tale. 2 big European teams. You've got Lukaku, Young, Sanchez, all that mob against United. But then they've got a task in Shakhtar Donetsk, who have always been around the Champions League.
Yep.
They always have a first 11 of about 7 Brazilians that then get snapped up, by the Premier League. Exactly. So really, everyone has been saying at lockdown it's a Man United Inter final, and it could quite easily be a Seville Shakhtar final. No problem. No problem at all.
I'm interested in how it goes. Like you said, Seville, the thing they've got going for them in Europe, the experience of being in finals, being around that kind of last 4, it counts a lot towards winning those competitions, and they've got that experience. I mean, as of United, I suppose, over the last couple of years, they've been thereabouts. And as much as it pains me to say it, they've looked good towards the end of the season. A little bit inconsistent, but like 10 times better than the way things were looking 6 months ago.
Yeah. Sure.
I said to you when it restarted again, I thought you'd have a United Inter final. And again, I thought it was a good story. You've got a lot of those United old boys there. And I thought it was a winnable game for United as well. But you're absolutely right. Getting past Seville and Inter getting past Shakhtar, it's no easy task. And it's a reminder that the Europa League is a really strong competition. Once you get to that kind of final 8, they're all good sides. There's no bad sides there, and it's a tough competition to win.
And that's one thing I've never agreed with in terms of with the Europa League. I've never understood why, if you're 3rd and 4th in your Champions League group, you should never drop into the Europa League, in my opinion. Right. You should go home because you failed in the Champions League, so you don't get
like a second chance, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't get a golden ticket now to the Europa League, and then you win that competition, and now then that gives you the golden ticket to get back into the tournament that you came 3rd and 4th in your group in. It's like a vicious circle. It never makes sense.
No. You wonder how much UEFA and the likes are trying to keep those bigger sides in the competition. It's not good for, like you say, for the for the teams who've maybe finished a bit lower down in the domestic league, and this is the chance to have a go at Europe, it's keeping that circle of the top teams year in, year out back in the competition.
Of course.
Which I suppose is good from a financial perspective, and they're the teams that generally have the larger fan base or will bring more money in, TV rights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can see why. But I agree. Sometimes when you think it's a competition, if you're out, aren't you?
You're out. You go home.
Oh, you come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. With anything, it's like, World Cup, Euros, you come third and fourth of your group, tough luck, you're going home. Just the way it is.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. And you look at somebody, to go back to somebody like Wolves, they started in the very first qualifying preliminary stage of the competition. Their season has been, obviously it's just finished, but there was over 12 months in terms of actually completing their season. So, and even many, many years ago when Fulham played Atletico Madrid in the final, well, under Roy Hodgson, Fulham started in stage one. Yeah. Like the very qualifying phase, they get to the Europa League final against Atletico Madrid, who was in the Champions League that year and dropped out. So why do they have to face a caliber of Champions League quality in Atletico Madrid in the final stages when it's getting even tougher? So I don't know. I've just never really agreed with it, to be honest. But,
no, I'm with you on that one. Absolutely. Is there much going on transfer-wise for you guys?
The Sancho thing is any Man United deal in recent years. It's never signed, sealed, delivered. Dortmund are playing hardball, saying we don't want to sell, and he's not for sale. But they've been doing an awful lot of chatting in the last few days to saying he's not for sale.
Right. In the squad, he's been named in the squad.
Yeah. He played yesterday, I think, in like a 6-0 win. So we're trying to get Sancho over the line, but I mean, we have obviously got a couple of gaps to fill. I agree that it's similar to Liverpool, that we need squad players. Your Lingard, your Pereiras, your Joneses, they're not good anymore to bring off the bench. Like, we said last week, the whole what Man City can bring off the bench. So yes, we need those quality squad players. I don't mind Juan Mata. I think he's getting on, but Juan Mata's been such a good servant for us. He's probably been in the worst time to be a Man United player in our lifetime. In these past 7 years or so, loves it. From the last sort of 5 years, loves it. Loves Man United. Takes a bit of a pay cut for charity. So he's a really good dude. So I don't mind him. I can see him going into like a coaching role, but I would say a Sancho is needed. I've wanted Sancho for a while. I know that you know that. I've not wanted Sancho. But the guy last night for Leipzig, that upper, I can't say his name, the centre back, Upper Camo, we should be going for him, because I don't want Koulibaly from Napoli. I don't want him because he's 29.
Right.
Although he's a big guy, he's very, let's say, Harry Maguire-like in a sense. I don't know what his pace is like. I don't know what his pace is like. So it's like, I look at this kid. He's 21 years of age, and last night he looked unbelievable. A physical striker like Diego Costa. You're on the European stage. He's exactly what we want. And I've heard a rumour that this season he had a €60 million release clause that nobody activated.
Right.
And apparently in 2021, the French newspapers are reporting that he's €41 million is his release clause. Now, if I was Man United, I would be in there straight away today. And you know what? I'd give him 65 million. Because every man and his dog will be after a centre-back. We talked about that last week. He will be a top player. So you know what? Manchester United should knock on the door and say, we've heard about this release clause. This one next year, 41 million. Tell you what, we'll take him off your hands now. Because 2021, to me, that could mean 1st of January as all as we're concerned. So the January, so we're talking a couple of months away.
Yeah.
I would knock on the door, give him 65 million. As I say, nice little golden handshake to say, here's a bit more money than we probably could have paid. Or we might even give him 10, whatever it would be. Because we paid 80 for Maguire. So you go, here's a nice little, here's a nice wedged envelope. Thank you very much. We'll take him. And let's get a nice little relationship. Let's get a relationship going. Any sort of young talents coming through, maybe, we'll have a look at them. Are you interested in Lingard or Jones? Okay, no, you're not. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But we'll get something going. We'll get something going. Yeah, But honestly, that's what I would do. And somebody like him, everyone's going to be after him.
A good centre half, a good young centre half. They're in short supply, aren't they? And you think that's what he's worth now? Give it another season. Give it coming out of this COVID, where in another year or so, people are going to have a bit more money to spend. God knows what it'll be worth then once the market kind of turns around.
Yeah,
you get if you've got the money. If any team's got the money, they're going to get a few bargains this year because there just isn't as much money in the game kind of going around. I wouldn't blame anybody for going in. I don't think he's been on many people's radars. Like, I've not heard a lot of talk about him. Sometimes you just got to get yourself put in the shop window and have a good performance on the biggest days, like a Champions League semi-final, to really kind of put your name out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot in the next week or so coming in for him. There's a lot of teams out there who are desperate for a
exactly. And even your tried and tested players, like, many years everyone's been saying Rafael Varane, he's the one, World Cup winner, French international with, Real Madrid starting, what a top player he is. You saw his performance against Man City a couple of days ago. If David Luiz did that, which he did against City this season, by the way, but if he did a similar performance, he won't be playing again for some people's concern. So it just shows you the best out there and tried and tested. So go for this kid, get him, and go from there. So I think we should get him, no question.
Well, speaking from my perspective, I hope you don't. So There's a bit more going on in Liverpool, I think. There's still rumours, well, not so much rumours, but there's still kind of talk about this Thiago Alcantara coming across.
Yeah.
And for everyone who didn't listen last week, you'll have heard us talking about that. Grant's big theory was that Munich never let a good player go. Your kind of theory was that there must be something wrong with him here if they let him.
Schweinsteiger.
But just looking at YouTube clips and seeing him play, it'll be interesting to see tomorrow. He does look like someone who could come into a Liverpool side and be one of the best players in the league. I really hope we get him. I think it's still possible. I think it's still on the table.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of it has got to do with what happens with Wijnaldum. He's putting stuff out on social medias this week, kind of indicating that he wants to stay. It's all coming down. I think it's all coming down to pay and what Liverpool are willing to offer him. Personally, I'd keep him, but if it's going to come down to, for me, I just don't want to be letting go of too many top players because I think we're going to need this squad. This season, the way the fixtures are looking now, there's going to be a game every 3 days.
Yeah.
Pretty much throughout the season. You're going to need the squad. You're going to need to be able to rotate. So you need these type of players. And obviously you've got a few others there that we've been speaking about before that are on the outs list. You've like Shaqiri and Origi. And I think it is probably time for those guys to move on. But if we're not bringing anybody else in to replace them, we already know that they're both pretty happy to sit on the bench. I think Shaqiri more so I would probably keep. I think he can be a game changer. I think even though he's never going to be a starter, he's not the kind of top echelon player that we want, but I do think he's a good squad player. I think Origi's time's probably up. And if we are looking to move him on, I do think we need to be giving Brewster a chance now. I think for me, I would be bringing Brewster back into the squad and almost having him replace Origi. Like you're the kind of first option off the bench. If one of the front three are out or if you're rotating 60, 70 minutes, you bring in Brewster on. I think he needs to be in the squad. He needs to go, I think. And I think he's proved at Swansea that he's got that finishing ability. People rate him very highly. I'd like to see him be given a go. I think Origi, as much as he's now a bit of a cult hero, having the goals he scored, the important goals he scored, never going to take that away from him. And he'll always be highly thought of. But I think if you're Liverpool and you're champions now, you're looking to kick on. I think Origi's someone that's probably not there anymore. He's not up to that level.
He's kind of a cult hero in a sense of like Diego Forlan for us, or Michael Owen, the last minute winner against City. Those type of things where you go, they're not, the best. Not Forlan's case. He went to become a top player, but yeah, those types of people that they're kind of around, and you're like, oh, you remember that goal? But essentially, just move them on and get them. So, and to go back to a Wijnaldum, I'm pretty sure, in terms of the negotiation and bargaining power, I'm pretty sure he didn't get an assist in the last 2 seasons in the Premier League.
Really?
Yeah.
Stat. There you go.
So that's very surprising.
I'd like to see the other stats of his contributions.
Yeah, of course. Tackles. Yeah.
Yeah, his work rate. He keeps that ball ticking over midfield, and he's scored important goals as well. I think he's an important player for us. He's consistent as well. Doesn't miss many games. Really injured. I think I would keep him about. I think he can easily fight for a place in that midfield, even if we bring Thiago in.
Yeah.
And again, what a squad player to have, which we're going to need.
Yeah, of course.
You almost looking, if you're playing every 3 days here, you're almost looking at having. You want 2 squads that you can rotate around, don't you? You can't do what we've done this year and have this kind of first 11 with 1 or 2 players coming in. You like your Shaqiris, your Lallana's coming in every too often. It's not going to cut it, and we've done that for 2 seasons. We're going to run people into the ground. Like we're really lucky with injuries in terms of we've not had many. But it only takes 1 or 2 of those players now to go down, and you're in big trouble. You're missing core members of your squad. So the only other one I'd seen for Liverpool as well was the Ismaila Sarr, how do you say his name?
I like him.
Lad from Watford. It seems to be a bit of a thing that what Liverpool are doing now is picking up these gems from relegated sides.
Yeah.
Although I did see the price tag that they were muted.
40 mil or something.
40 mil, yeah. Which seems a bit excessive to me, especially in the current climate for a lad who's just been relegated. I'm not sure we're going to play. I don't think we'll pay 40 million for him. But he's got good numbers, heaps of potential. And it's always interesting to see like what he's done at Watford now in a side that's been relegated. Imagine what he does mixing up with that front 3. I think I'm playing off Firmino, having Mane to his left. I think he's someone who can really kick on. I'd be interested in seeing how he goes.
What do you think you're going to do with? Because Harry Wilson's your player, right?
Yeah, I think he gets sold. To be honest with you.
Yeah, just to fund the budget, and obviously I think
I think we're gonna again FSG. They're not they've not got an endless pot of gold. Again, and they've kind of publicly said as well that that COVID and all this lockdown has not gone well for them. I think we're gonna need to sell people in order to bring people in. So you're gonna look at these people who've sent out on loan, and you're gonna ask like, are they really gonna get into this side? Now I think Brewster probably has a chance. Like I've said, I don't think Harry Wilson gets into this Liverpool side. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to someone like a Leeds, someone who's come up there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go there. I don't know how much you get for him. 10 mil, something like that.
Probably, I reckon 20. Oh, mind you, the way you look, I must admit, Liverpool have always been very good at selling players. You get very good money for your players, and a lot of the shit. We said it last week. Jerome Sinclair, Solanke, all them bottom of the barrel, bottom feeders. I know. But like you always get top dollar, whereas on the flip side, United never have. They've never done that. Whereas maybe in the last couple of deals, we're a bit more strict on that and trying to get some top dollar. So I'd like to think any on the periphery, they're going to be sold, and you're going to have some money. You sold Lovren, you brought in that Greek guy for like the same money. So I don't know anything about that guy, by the way. I presume he's obviously backup left back, obviously to Robertson. But I
would have thought so, but I think you brought him in as a young player. I think he's like 21. He's young anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
The interesting thing about that is he's highly rated. He's come from Olympiacos. Similar style of player to Robertson. And your first thought is, he's going to come in as a backup for Robertson. But I don't think you move, as 21, I don't think you move yourself, your family to come over to the UK if you don't think you're going to play. Like, I think he will push Robertson for his place. I really do. And again, like I said, we're going to need 2 squads. You're probably going to see him play quite a bit. I do think he'll start off as the understudy, but I think it's something we need. I think you've seen the kind of the miles and the the grind that Robertson's have to go through. He's so essential to that team, and the miles he covers week in, week out. I always think it's a matter of time before he's going to get injured.
Yeah.
And I think you need to ease up on those games that he's playing. So you'll probably see this Greek lad play the cup games. You'll see him rotate, and it'll be interesting to see how good he is and how much he can push Robertson for that race. Because I do think he'll give him a good run for his money.
Would you buy a similar to Lovren? Would you buy a squad player centre back? Are you a bit thin there now, or?
We're not desperate for it, but I would like to see somebody better than Matip, who's probably your first choice. I'd say the Gomez and Van Dijk are your first choice.
Yeah.
I think Van Dijk loves playing next to Gomez, does a lot of his running for him, because he can get back. You've obviously got Matip. You've then got Fabinho, who can drop it there if needs be. Yeah. But I mean, that's not where you want him to be playing, and I'm sure he wouldn't be stoked about it either. So we do kind of need somebody else to come in there. Like we've said, there's not a heap going around. It'll be interesting to see if we can pick anybody up there. Any suggestions?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, as I said, we spoke last week about Ake, of course, but when he got snapped up to City. But maybe. I know there's been a lot of talk about a lot of like the Norwich defenders. I know that Ben Godfrey's young. They're talking about the guy with Brighton, the young centre back there. Is it White? Is it Ben White? Is it? Or is it Gibson? Anyway. So they're talking about those young players there, but I know with Liverpool, they've always talked that they've been quite lucky with that front three being injury free. The way that you play as well, certainly you need them squad players. But I look at it on the face of it as, yes, the front three are important, of course. They are. If you get an injury to a Mane or a Salah, of course it's crucial. But if Van Dijk goes down,
toast, mate.
I mean, if there is an injury,
it's true.
That's where I see.
Saying that we played a good portion of that season. We won the league there with Adrian in net, so we have got you can lose those main players, and I think we'd get by enough on the squad system, having Matip there, the best player in the world. Again, I wouldn't want him starting week in, week out. I don't think he's as strong as Van Dijk or Gomez, but I also wouldn't want to bring. I don't want, especially now when we haven't got the money to just be splashing on anybody. I wouldn't just bring anybody in there. I think Klopp knows who he wants. He's not just going to bring in someone to fill a gap. I think we've got the youngsters coming through as well. I forgot his name. That's Sepp van den Berg. Interesting to see him anytime. Yeah. He's only young. Again, I wouldn't expect him to be starting at all, really. But he'll be in the squad again this year, and it'll be interesting to see how fast he kicks on. Having played being Dutch, being in that Dutch setup with Van Dijk, he's got a good mentor there. So that'll be interesting to see if he's got his eye on him over the next couple of years. Maybe we don't need to invest in another kind of young centre half.
Yeah. Breaking news before we just started the pod. Arsenal have signed Willian on a free. So good job they got rid of all them 55 staff to pay his 220,000 a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scumbags.
Absolute scumbags.
And you've got Ozil 350 a week, so not in a match day squad. But anyway.
Just going to sit there and see how his contract.
It's like Bale, honestly.
That's awful. It's a night when you do that. Honestly, don't know if night. Well, probably on a very comfy, expensive bed. But
and that's the problem we had with Sanchez. That was probably a similar thing as well. And luckily we've got rid of him. I don't know why they've bought him, by the way, because everyone's saying he's loving his football and stuff, but he scored 3 goals this season or something like that. He's not setting the world alight, and they still paid it. So anyway, so that was interesting with Arsenal. Other rumours: Chelsea want Declan Rice from West Ham.
Right.
So West Ham obviously got the mentality of a chip shop where they have no intention of selling Rice. So there we go.
Have you got that written down?
That just came to me. So they want about 80 mil for him. Chilwell is 80 mil. Chilwell's been linked with 80 mil. I'm thinking United can't go there. They got 80 for Maguire. You can't do 80 for like Chilwell or something like that.
No.
So again, English players going for,
I just don't think there's that much money going around this season. I just don't think there's going to be any massive signings like that.
Yeah.
Unless somebody like your Man Cities or your PSGs, unless one of them like kicks off the transfer kind of market with a huge signing of someone by pumping, as in like hundreds of millions in. There's just no money. There's not enough money in the game.
Domino effect. They buy them, so they buy them, so they buy them.
That's the only way there's going to be money in the game. Someone of those Russian billionaires or Dubai billionaires, they're going to have to pump a lot of money in so that it kind of filters through. Otherwise, I just don't think there's any money there at all.
I know.
Then prices are they're a bit daft because no one's going to pay them. I don't think.
Exactly.
I also saw just before we started that Trent has been given Young Player of the Year.
Oh yeah, has he? Well, we predicted that, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, he's also up for the main. I don't know when they draw them or when they announce the Player of the Year, but he's up for that as well. I forgot the full. I know there was 3 Liverpool players. There was Trent,
Henderson, Mane, would it?
No, Trent, Van Dijk, and Mane. Henderson's not in the list.
Oh really?
Yeah, I think this one's voted for by players. I think whereas the other one was like the football writers. This one's I think is voted for the players. So I always think when people are voting for that, it's going to be the players who are coming off the pitch and being like, "Christ, he was hard work." Like that's what you're going to remember, and maybe that's not what Henderson. Obviously, Henderson does a lot around the game and makes Liverpool tick. Yeah. But he's not probably causing everyone a nightmare. Whereas you got play like I wonder even how if Trent can do the double there, similar to what Bale did. You just imagine everyone who's played against Trent on that right hand side would just be like, "Christ, he's good," and he's 21.
It pains me is how good he is.
Yeah. Obviously, Mane's been our most consistent player. And Van Dijk again. It's one of those where strikers are probably coming off the pitch and being like, Jesus Christ, he's a nightmare to play against.
Can't get around him.
Yeah, and you just think that if that's in their mind, they're like, he's player of the year. But if I'm honest, I think probably De Bruyne wins that. I think he'll probably win.
Yeah, I love De Bruyne. He's best midfielder in the world for me. He's unbelievable. And as I say, Trent, modern day David Beckham, incredible. Passing, shooting, free kicks, set pieces. 21 years of age.
The fact that he's 21 blows your mind. It's like, what can he do? He's 21. He's played in a World Cup, won a Premier League, played in 2 European Cup finals, won one of them. Like, and he's 21. It's unbelievable, isn't it? The world is oyster. I just hope he keeps his head on his shoulders. Obviously, hope he stays at Liverpool. Be interesting to see what kind of Klopp's plan for him is, whether he does eventually get pushed into midfield. Be interesting to see, but
I think so. He definitely could become like a De Bruyne the way he plays. I mean, I'm not saying that if Edward, I don't know whether Ed Woodward is looking for a scout, but I did watch Trent Alexander-Arnold a number of years ago at Lee Sports Village, free entry, Liverpool versus Man United, and I did quote to say that lad's a player, and so I saw him probably 18 years of age, and I knew then he was a player. So that's my claim to fame.
There you go. Give us a trick.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, so obviously before we get into the big sporting event this weekend, AFL. Now 2 English blokes have adopted the love of AFL.
Yes.
We know a little bit about the games, a lot of things that we don't really know about. But,
I wouldn't even claim that. But yeah.
The big one is our teams, Essendon and St Kilda, will be playing against each other on Sunday.
Yep.
But yeah, how are you feeling? You know, this season with the Saints. You know, what are your thoughts?
But by far and away, we've exceeded what I thought Saints would do so far this season. It's a bit of a weird one, similar to other sporting competitions. There's always a bit of like an asterisk on this season. It's been a bit weird for people if you're watching this in the UK. Because Victoria, where Melbourne is, and where the majority of AFL teams are based, because Victoria is in lockdown, before that happened, all the AFL teams that are based in Victoria I don't know off the top of my head how many that is. But like talking
maybe about
8, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. 8.
I can't think off the top of my head. Anyway, they all had to leave and go to Queensland. So they're in like a hub basically up there. And they've had to stay there, limited contact with family, they're living, training, playing the games there. So they'll have been there for a couple of months by the time that this whole season's ended. So obviously it's just a weird season. But yeah, Saints have by far outperformed what I thought they were going to do. We've got some strong draft picks with Max King coming in. He's been awesome. Picked up Dan Butler from Richmond, who's been insane as well. But I thought we might see like ourselves kicking on in the next couple of years, bringing this kind of young squad through. But yeah, we've kicked on and we've had some amazing performances. I mean, to caveat that, we did get comprehensively beat last weekend, or was it Monday night by Geelong. They played really well. They came out, they stifled Saints' game, which was, I mean, it was a surprise based off the way we've been playing recently. But I think it was a bit of a reality check to say, like, this is where Saints are at. I'm just hoping that we can bounce back now and put in a good performance against the Bombers. Again, Bombers very beatable this season, but have been madly inconsistent. One week they can turn up and look like a top 8 team, and then the next week they can be pretty poor. I didn't see your last game the other night, but I know that you said that it was if that had gone on another quarter, you'd have probably won that one.
Probably, yeah. It was just I don't want to get the type of Essendon fan that blames the umpires and stuff, but there has been a couple of dubious calls this season. Yeah, but I will. I'll do it anyway. I'll stick my oar in. But I mean, saying there's some got 3-4 goals from the referees there, but and I was actually speaking to Trav this morning. Shout out TB7, and we were talking about Essendon, and he said, you know what? Yeah, it sucks that it was kind of a draw the other night. You know, does feel like a loss. But one thing that kind of made me realise a little bit was, you know, and it's easy to be down on the Bombers this season and go, oh, you know, season's probably over. You know, to keep, I'll say 1 week they win, 1 week they don't, etc. But the injuries that Essendon have had this season, like, we're talking key players for us that are out at the moment. And so they drew to the Suns, who have been playing okay. Like the week before, they lose to GWS by 4 points. And then in our injuries, we're talking Heppel, captain, out. Michael Hurley, Cale Hooker, arguably two of our best, you know, defensive players. Fantasia's out. Stringer and Danaher's out. You're missing goals there from both of them. Laverde's out. Draper's out, who's probably our best ruckman. And Townsend is out as well, he's probably not in our best 22, but he's probably more of a squad player type of thing. But there's like 9 key injuries there that we're lacking at the moment. And you just think a lot of the close run games we've had this season, 2 weeks ago we got smashed by Brisbane, but a lot of these games that have been so close with Bombers this season, a couple of those players. And it's a different outcome, in my opinion. But one thing that I did notice as well is we handball too much. When there's the sniff of a goal, just boot it, get it on the boot. Yeah. You know, and even if a point, we would have won the game at the Suns. So I think the confidence is down where they're overplaying and handballing, and they should actually just go for it. Like Tipper, I don't know what is up with him, but for the past 4 weeks or so, he's been too unselfish with the ball. He will not kick for goal, and he's definitely our best set shot. Yeah, and he's arguably one of our better players, if not the best player. So I don't know what they're doing.
Is it a confidence thing, or is that an instruction?
Well, we don't know. Yeah, that it could be an instruction, and it's quite unusual. The way that Essendon have set up this year, because as a lot of Australians know, Essendon's coach is moving on at the end of the season, and our new coach is now the number 2 of our current coach. So it's kind of, well, who's doing the coaching here?
Strange kind of,
yeah. But my worry is, since I've been watching AFL, 3 years now, I can see Essendon not kicking on, and it's kind of like same old same. You see it in the Premier League when a manager's been in charge, and it's like, but they're not really kicking on. So my big worry is if he's been in and around the club and he's learning the same methods and the same, it's kind of just going to be the same thing next year. There's no new voice. There's no new, strategy. Who knows? It may be different when he takes the reins, but I don't know.
There's a good argument for consistency, isn't there? Hey, you've got a culture in a club, which the Bombers do have this culture that you want to pass that on. But at the same time, if you're being consistently average, you don't want to pass that on. You do want, and that's something you don't want to continue. You might need someone who comes in, freshens it up, who's got a new approach. Whereas if he's, like you say, if there's a bit of a handover here, you'd imagine it's going to be kind of more of the same. Little tweaks, I guess, in terms of personality, but it's almost like they're wanting to keep hold of that culture they have around the team and around the club now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I do think we're in for a good game on Sunday evening. Yeah. I think both sides will see this as a winnable game, which means they're both going to go out and go after it. I think we'll move the ball quick. I'd like to think Saints. I don't know where to hang my hat on this one. I'd like to think Saints will get it done. I think they've been more consistent this year. We've beaten some of the top teams, and I think we've been more clinical in front of goal. Yeah. But on the day, Bombers, they can definitely take this game as well.
Yeah, it's a must-win for us. Like our season, it's cliche to say, but our season does hang in the balance with this because we have to beat Saints. We have to beat our game in hand against Melbourne.
Yeah.
Because the rest of our games, I think we've got Richmond next week. Then we play Hawthorn, and Hawthorn always beat Essendon apparently. So it's Richmond, it's Hawthorn, it's West Coast, it's Geelong, it's Port. So in the next 6 games or so, we'll be lucky to win 2 games in the next 6, I would say.
Yeah, it's a must-win for you. I think for us, it's more of a must-win in terms of like getting back on the horse, almost bringing that consistency back. We don't want to slip to like a second defeat and then you can start yourself dropping down the ladder. That's why I think for us it's important we get this win. So
exactly. And even if we do win 1 or 2 more than expected in them games, which is probably unlikely, that'll still take us just in and around the 8, just in 8th, 9th. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good as a Bomber, but I signed up for it, so we've got to deal with it. Got to roll with the punches.
You've got to give it to us. We didn't come in here 5 years ago for me, and pick a top side, did we? We came in and we picked the average.
I could have been. I could have easily been Richmond. Easily been Richmond, but
I was nearly a Bulldogs fan. The first year I kind of watched the game was when Bulldogs went all the way. I was living with Corey at the time, who's a mad Bulldogs fan. I kind of rode that wave with him, but I then couldn't, off the back of that season, couldn't pick Bulldogs to my team because they'd just gone and won. You'd have been a bit of a
it's like Leicester win the Premier League.
Yeah, so I couldn't do it, even though I kind of was like, I definitely got on that little bandwagon as they were going through the competition that year. But I'm happy with Saints. I'm happy with the pick. I think it's a bright future.
Yeah, of course. But anyway. And obviously the big main event is the big sporting event for us this Sunday is the legacy, the whatever you want to call it, the trilogy, the baddest man on the planet, the greatest heavyweight of all time, will be decided on Sunday. And we've got the UFC, Miocic versus Cormier. So what a card.
It is. It's a great main card. I guess if we look at it, I guess we go from bottom to top. Well, we can also mention top of the prelims, you got Jim Miller, who's fighting. He's kind of a stalwart of that division. I'm always excited to see him fight, and I'm glad he's got the chance to kind of headline a prelim card, which is awesome.
I think, I don't know too much against that Pichel who he's fighting, but I looked at his record. He's not really fought any names, which is, of course, that's why they threw him to someone like Jim Miller. Yeah. I can't look past Jim Miller in this one for me. I think, too many runs on the board, tried and tested. Like you say, never puts on a bad fight.
Got the experience, hasn't he? I think he'll get the win.
He's a beast.
And, jumping up to the main card. I don't know a lot about the guys on the first fight, although I do know that Herbert Burns is Gilbert Burns' brother. So if it runs in the family, he's going to be an absolute killer.
Exactly.
Fights at featherweight. So it's a great way to kick off the card. Him and Daniel Pineda.
Imagine fighting in the UFC and you're not even the best fighter in your house. Exactly. Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine that.
I was trying to separate them two.
I know.
But so he's a bit lighter than his brother. But apparently a good prospect from what I've read about him. But I haven't actually seen him fight, so I'm keen to see that. Yeah.
And this fight, I believe, has been bumped up because of Kutalaba testing positive with COVID, which we kind of got into that fight last week. But both of us kind of knew that there was something controversial or something about it. But I think you found what the reason was this week, right?
Yes. I can't remember what card it was on, but I knew I'd seen both of the names, and they both rung a bell as to why they were running this fight back. And the reason was they both came out like a train, swinging at each other. And I forgot which one it was now. Was it Kutalaba who played Possum?
Kutalaba.
Possum, which is basically he was pretending he was hurt in order to drag in his opponent to start swinging at him. The ref got it completely wrong. I mean, it's hard to blame the ref because he did look like he was hurt, he was dazed, he was stumbling around. The ref jumped in and stopped it, and the guy was absolutely fine. He was literally just play acting. Yeah. I mean, if you don't want that to happen to you, I think it's probably a bad idea to do the play acting. But I can completely see why he was doing it. He was doing it to draw out the aggressiveness from his opponent. His opponent thought he had him on the ropes, basically, ran in to finish him, and the ref jumped in and stopped it. So they were going to run that back this time, and there was a lot of kind of words said between them, a lot of aggression getting into the space. It was going to be a bit of a barnstormer, I think. But it's off due to COVID. So that fight bit the dust on this card. But then next up, we got John Dodson.
Mm-hmm.
Another experienced guy. He beat Nathaniel Wood, I think, last time.
Yeah, he did.
Really good. He's one of the fastest guys, one of the fastest hands, one of the fastest guys. Pressure fighter. I'm always excited to see him fight. I think he's fought for that bantamweight title before, hasn't he?
He's fought everyone. Yeah. John Dodson to get into the top echelon in that division, you've got to go through John Dodson. There's no doubt about it. He has fought everyone. And I thought I'd read off some names that he's fought, and you just think, wow, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So just scanning over, he fought TJ Dillashaw. So he beat TJ Dillashaw. He's fought Tim Elliott. Yeah, so he beat Dillashaw. He beat Tim Elliott. He beat Jussier Formiga.
Yeah.
He lost against Mighty Mouse. He lost against Mighty Mouse again a couple of fights after.
Yeah.
He beat Manny Gambarian. He lost to John Lineker. He beat Eddie Wineland, who we'll probably mention on this card given his opponent.
Yeah.
He lost to Marlon Moraes. He beat Pedro Munoz. He lost to Jimmy Rivera. He lost to Petr Yan as well, the champ. So to get there,
everyone in that division.
You've got to go through John Dodson. So, and that's why I've seen, Dushan Ostrovilli's, I've seen him on a few cards, and it looks okay. But I think experience prevails. Somebody like John Dodson, to even stand in there with Demetrius Johnson, there'll be parts of his game, because Demetrius Johnson, arguably the best of all time, arguably one of the best. Well, without a doubt, one of the best. High caliber opposition that he's fought. So I'm going Dodson.
Yeah, beautiful. And then I'm excited about this next fight actually. Junior Dos Santos and Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Yeah.
Rozenstruik's a terrifying individial. He's absolutely massive. Kickboxer, I think, by trade. I think that's his bread and butter. But
I won't argue with him, even if it wasn't.
And again, you look at the sides of them both, and you're like, he's going to blow Dos Santos away. But you forget Dos Santos has held that heavyweight title. He's fought Cain Velasquez twice. Yeah, he's got incredible hands. I forgot who it was.
He beat Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, you're right. Beat Stipe. He's been there. He's again experienced guy. He's been in there with everyone who's anyone in that heavyweight division.
Not anybody.
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was now, but there was somebody who quoted saying that he was the best boxer in the UFC in terms of pure boxing skills. He was one of the best boxers in the UFC. I think this fight is going to be incredible. I think
I did.
I've had a bet on it this weekend, and I've put my money on Dos Santos. I think this one goes the distance, but I think he'll get the decision. I'm really excited to see how it goes. You've obviously got that power, and if Rosenstruik can catch you, like you just see what he did to Overeem in the last couple of seconds of that fight.
Last 4 seconds.
Just literally put his lights out, and that's no mean feat to completely knock out Overeem. But it's whether he can catch Dos Santos, and I think the head movement, I think the experience he's got in the octagon will play a huge part. And I think Dos Santos is going to have one last run at this heavyweight title to try and get it back, I think. He's probably got an exciting year or two ahead. We'll see if he gets through Rose.
I agree. I agree.
And I'm looking forward to that fight.
I think that'll probably be fight of the night, I would say. Probably. I mean, obviously it depends, of course, the main event, because everyone's tuning in for that. But I've just got a sneaky feeling that this will be the best fight, like you said, because Jairzinho Rosenstruck, for Ngannou to deal with him in 20 seconds or whatever it was, he's got a point to prove. He has got a point to prove, so he's got to come out. And somebody like Junior Dos Santos, we spoke about John Dodson. His resume is, again, you've got to go through everyone. You've got to go through everyone. Your Cain Velasquez, your Gabriel Gonzagas, your Big Country Nelsons, your Shane Carwins, and then, more recently he's fought your Blades and Ngannou, your Lewises, your Tuivasas, fought Miocic twice, won one, lost one. But yeah, the experience is there. His hands are frightening, and he can knock anybody. He can knock anybody out, and you always look at him. You compare him to like a Rosenstruck and an Ngannou, and you think, you wouldn't think that power comes from Dos Santos, but obviously it does. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Sagano will get the win, I would say.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that. Co-main event is an interesting one, and I love Sean O'Malley. I think he's a superstar in the making.
Yeah.
But I'll start this little chat by saying I smell an upset. I smell an upset here. I think I wouldn't hedge my bets on it. I'm not putting any money on it. But I think on the card, if you're going to have an upset, I smell an upset here.
Interesting.
I mean, all comments. You look at Sean O'Malley, and he's been incredible so far. But he's still, even though he's fought a few names, Eddie Wineland, we mentioned him before. It's an older Eddie Wineland that he's fought. He's still not fought like a ranked guy.
Yeah.
He has got incredible hands. He's an incredible athlete. I'm interested to see how he goes on the floor, which I think this might spend a bit of time on the mat. Yeah. Given that Marlon Vera is a black belt as well, I think he'll be keen to get this on the floor and test O'Malley and see how good his jiu-jitsu is. It could go either way, but I do think Vera is he's the last kind of benchmark, I think, before we can like solidify Sean O'Malley as being in the top echelon or top contender in that division. If he comes through Vera, which you know what he might well do, he might well come out like lightning again and knock him out really quickly. He does have dynamite in his hands, but I think Vera's tough, and I think it's going to take more than O'Malley's had to deal with yet to put him out. I think for sure it goes. I think it'll go the distance, and I'm not. I smell an upset. I smell an upset with this.
No, that's fair enough. And it could, and like you say, it could be one of those things where, not to say that he's not ready for this, by the way, because he's a star and such things. But when you start believing in it and you sort of buy into it. I mean, we saw the upset. People, even myself, talking about like your Johnny Walkers and those. I mean, most recently as well with Shabazian as well. So I don't know, when there's a bit of that hype and you see him on embed, it's not to look into it, but he's kind of, you said it best with his big brother type cheers if he's in the diary room. He's on Call of Duty and so, which is fine because you're in isolation, you've got to be doing something. That's what I've been doing, here in Melbourne. But no, I agree. He's a star in the making. There could be an upset. I will go with O'Malley because I think Marlon Vera, he has always been there, of course. Like that name has always been synonymous. mentioned, and obviously it's a good benchmark. But the only thing I'd say about Vera is, yes, I do like the black belt. But me personally, there's no one on his resume that I'm kind of impressed with, really, in terms of his winning. I know that O'Malley hasn't had that yet, but of course, he's an up-and-comer, so they feed him to Vera and kind of see where he's at, really. So I will say that O'Malley gets past him, but as you say, I completely respect where you're coming from there, and we'll tune in and we'll find out.
No, it's whatever happens with Sean O'Malley, you're going to get fireworks. And like I said, even though I do kind of sense a bit of an upset here, if there's not an upset, if he beats Vera, I honestly would go as far to say as you've got the potential for a Conor McGregor style superstar. He's got that potential. He really does. He's just got to get over these hurdles, I think, and get into that top 5. And the world is his oyster then. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then main event. Oh, dude. I mean, get your t-shirt out right now. Here we go.
My boy DC.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
This is huge. I don't know if anybody's read the thing I wrote this morning, actually. I put it out there. I'm just super excited about this fight. Not even so much just for the fight itself, but for everything that it is around it and everything that it means. DC has been... He's a good guy. In fact, both of these guys are good guys. And DC specifically has been around the sport for a long time. This is the fight that he says is his last fight. It's for his legacy. He doesn't want to go out with a loss. And this is going to mean everything to him. Now, I mean, fight specifically, this is really interesting because what makes it so interesting is that they've both beaten each other definitively. They've both finished each other, which means that whatever kind of preconceptions they might have had before, whether they've underestimated each other or overestimated each other, they now have a very real picture, having spent 5 rounds in the octagon together, of exactly what their opponent can do. I think DC has won. I would say DC won 4 out of the 5 rounds that these guys have fought, but has still lost one of those fights. I think DC will probably come into this fight in a lot better shape. I think that's what he identifies. His last loss to Stipe was down to his conditioning. I think Stipe would disagree. I think Stipe would say, "Nah, it's because I'd hit you with some vicious body shots and finish you." So they both know that they're both capable of finishing each other. And I'm so excited to see how it goes. And I hope that it goes the way that we want it to with DC. Nothing against Stipe, but I would love to see him go end his legacy in a positive way. I'd love to see him get that belt back and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. Excited, yes, but very nervous. Very, very nervous for DC because I wanted to do it because he's been, as I say, he's been so good for the sport. You know, he's my number 1 guy. Everybody loves DC. Maybe not John Jones, but could certainly respect DC. John Jones can certainly respect DC. And I just think it's very rare to finish out on top in the top echelon of sport. You know, and the right time to call it quits as well mentally, where you think, do I go one more, or you're chasing the dragon almost, where it's kind of you finish, and because you finish, you think, can I go again? You get back in the gym, can I go again? And it's that cycle. So he has the real chance here to be crowned, you know, the baddest man on the planet, the greatest heavyweight of all time, win back the belt, and retire on top. And I think, I know there's a lot of discussion. I know, you know, you've kind of hinted as well that whether it is the time to give up as well, whether he'll be tempted by a bit of this. And
I'm going to get to this.
But I think he's mentally there. I think he is ready. And I think he's been ready since April when he originally wanted this rematch. And I think he's forced Miocic into this. I think if you ask Miocic what he wanted to do, yes, he'll say it's about the trilogy. And it does make sense. But I think he probably would have looked at like a John Jones or something else to say, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. Whereas, because the UFC wanted to do Miocic versus John Jones, and DC, the way he is, said, well, if that's the plan, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So he used his, and good on him, he's got this fight. And I just think he, since April, he's wanted it so much. He just wanted one more. You remember the whole, one more and stuff. I just think he's ready. I just think he's really up for this. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'll have the belt back with my wife and kids, and I've done it. And he'll take off his gloves, put them in the centre, and ride off into the sunset. And I'm just praying that he does do it, because I think he is the better mixed martial artist. His IQ, I think, is a lot smarter, but I'm not taking away anything from Miocic. And he has to get the job done. We've talked about this. He has to get the job done.
Yeah.
If you want to sit on him for 5 rounds, if you can get him down and you can sit on him for 5 rounds, as a DC fan, I don't care. Do it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just going to say. How do you, emotions aside and what we want to happen aside, what do you think happens? How do you think this fight plays out?
Yeah, so I think round 1 will be a very tentative stand-up exchange, similar to a Whittaker-Till, where it's kind of respecting each other in terms of, they know the danger. I think it'll be a very tentative first round, and I think Cormier will win the first round on the exchange, probably a bit more output, probably feeling him out, maybe 1 or 2 kicks, or just to mix it up a little bit. But then round 2, I predict a Miocic to come out the traps a little bit and start to maybe the body shots, maybe start to open him up a little bit and kind of cause a little bit of trouble. And my prediction there is I think it may swing to like a Miocic, so then it's a 1-1. And then with DC, that first sign of danger in Miocic is now won a round. I've got to do what I can to win this fight. And I think from rounds 3 to 5, it'll be a very boring but efficient DC win where he just goes, I know what to do best. I'll pop shots, but I'm going to try and take him down and use my wrestling, use every ounce of my ability to get the win. And it'll be a dogged decision win for DC. Well, how do you think?
I'm similar to you. I think we know that Stipe is a notoriously slow starter. And he knows that as well. And I think that might be on his mind. I think he'll actually start a bit faster than we think. And I think that'll force DC to take to the ground sooner than he would probably want to. I think there's an ego in it. And as much as DC is a smart guy, I still think that he'll be aware that everyone thinks that he's going to just wrestle. And that's what he needs to do. I think DC's going to want to prove that he can at least stand up with Miocic and that he can trade shots. And he is dangerous. I mean, he knocked him out in the first round of the first fight. He gets him in that clinch, single arm around the back of the neck tie, and his short-range punching power is incredible. I think you might see the first round be a bit more fireworks, probably than either of them actually want, but I think they'll end up falling into that.
Right. Okay.
But then I agree with you. I think as the fight goes on, they're both going to have to dog it out in any way that they can. I think you'll see DC repeatedly, continuously, relentlessly trying to take Stipe down. I think Stipe's takedown defense is probably better than we give him credit for. I think they'll spend a bit of time against the fence in the clinch, bit of dirty boxing there. But I do think over the rounds, I think I think DC will do enough to grind it out. I think that his wrestling pedigree is probably just that much better that he'll be able to take Stipe down 9 times out of 10. And I think you'll spend most of the fight there. But I do think they're both going to have to go to the well to win this. I think they're both going to have to go to hell and back. They're going to have to grind it out. But I think DC will get the decision win.
Yeah, fair enough. And in these predictions, we know Miocic is dangerous. Of course he is. Like he is a great fighter. But one thing I have noticed, well, I've known this for a while, but he doesn't have any personality. As a champion, he's such a good fighter and he's such a good guy. He's a firefighter. But he's just not got any personality. And what I noticed is embedded, not so much embedded, because the couple of times that you see Miocic, he's just sat eating a salad, by the way. But anyway, But one thing I've noticed, and I noticed it today with the press conference, is every time Miocic cracks a joke, it's not funny and nobody laughs, right? So every time he says something, they'll say something like, "Ah, no, just kidding," and there's not one like, "Huh," or fake laugh. It's just like deadpan. Like, he is not a funny guy, but still a killer, baddest man on the planet, arguably.
Yeah.
But the guy, he doesn't sell fights.
You always imagine the heavyweight champion of the world. It's arguably the most like coveted title you could ever want. It's like you say, it's the baddest man on the planet. But you imagine these people who are the heavyweight champion of the world. I know it's a different sport, but I think of Mike Tyson. I think of these bad men.
Muhammad Ali.
These like dangerous men. And you look at Stipe, and he's the nicest guy. He's a fireman.
Yes.
Taking nothing away from his martial arts skill. Incredible. Yeah. He's got the most UFC heavyweight title defenses ever. It's an unbelievable record, but you don't see him as the baddest man on the planet, do you? And to be honest with you, for that matter, neither's DC. They're both relatively nice guys, and it's interesting how you've got arguably the two greatest heavyweights of all time are just two good guys.
Just normal guys, yeah.
But this kind of leads me on, I guess, to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who aren't particularly good guys, who would make a dangerous heavyweight champion of the world, and I've said this to you before, I'm not convinced, should DC win, that he hangs up his gloves. I just think John Jones is waiting in the wings there, and I just think that if he, especially if he gets Stipe out there early, if he somehow knocks Stipe out and it's like a convincing, unbelievable victory, I think it's going to be very hard for him to say no, because the UFC are going to be waiting there with a sack of money and are just going to go, come on, John Jones, do the third fight at heavyweight. You've got an advantage him at heavyweight. I think it's very hard for DC to say no to that. Again, because he's a competitor, he's spent his life competing. I think it's hard for him to say no. And on the other track, I guess, if he loses, I don't think he's going to want to go out on a loss. I don't know who he would fight next, but I don't think he'd have to fight a name that's just like almost like an exhibition fight. But I just don't think he's going to want to hang his gloves up on a loss.
Lesnar.
If he doesn't win, what?
Lesnar, for example.
Well, yeah, maybe. Very a winnable fight. I just, either way, however this goes, I'm not so sure that it's DC's last fight, which is a shame, because if he does win, everything about me is like, just call it a day. Put your gloves down. You've got everything. You've got a career. You've got your analyst career. You've got a beautiful family. Go enjoy your retirement. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, John Jones DC3. Yes, please. Yes, please.
So the problem, and as I say, I understand what you're saying there, and I can get it in terms of money talks. Of course, it does, and I think my fingers are crossed that he gets the belt, rides off into the sunset, does what he says, retires, and fair play to you. But the problem that the UFC have is John Jones. He obviously wants more money or some sort of thing to entice him. Now, Dana White announced this morning that there will be a light heavyweight fight by the end of the year. Now, obviously that's John Jones' division. And no joke, other than Figueiredo, which I predict future dominance, I look at the light heavyweight division, and that is probably the male division that I have least interest in. Least interest. And it's John Jones' downfall, because unfortunately he's been that good that he's made it a non-entity. But you look at the light heavyweight rankings. He's fought the top two, Reyes and Santos, relatively
the last two
soon.
Fights.
Well, last two fights. Jan Blachowicz, I'm sorry, he might be a decent fight, but again, no personality, no one's bothered. So the problem for me is, how do you get John Jones back to the table? How do you get him back to How do you get him back to the UFC? Now, the thing is, the light heavyweight fight. So is that going to be Jones is going to be stripped, and they're going to have a Santos something? and he's going to do a heavyweight. Now, the thing that I would say is, if this heavyweight bout isn't, a taxing on either one in terms of injuries and stuff, it's fairly quick affair. The one thing I can think of is, imagine Cormier versus Jones, or Miocic versus Jones, one holding the light heavyweight, one holding the heavyweight, like they did in the first Cormier Miocic fight on New Year's Eve.
Oh, now you're telling me, yeah. Now you're talking.
I can see them turning it around, because he's got to fight pretty soon. So they say, hey, John, I know it's about money. You're going to get a cut. Yep. You're going to get a nice slice of the pie for New Year. Yep. And you're going to be fighting one of these blokes. And you know what? And then that is if Cormier wins, they'll say, hey, Daniel. He goes, yeah, how are you enjoying your retirement? Yeah, all good. I've been playing a bit of Call of Duty, no worries. How do you like the sound of one more champion versus champion, New Year's Eve? John Jones. Yeah, all right.
Sign me up, baby. Yeah.
So who knows?
I completely agree, and that's definitely how it could play out. I don't think we see John Jones again at light heavyweight. There's nothing there for him. He's not interested. He needs to be up against it, I think, to get the best out of him. And you've seen his last performances. Yeah, he's won, and I mean, arguably he could have lost that Reyes fight, but it looked to me like he just cruised. He's just on cruise control. Mm-hmm. I think you need to put him under pressure. I wouldn't throw him in there with Ngannou straight away. Although it could happen. But John Jones is a big guy, and he's good. He'll be a similar weight. Like, even tomorrow when he's weighing, Stipe's only going to be like 230. He's lean as well. Stipe. He would easily match up with John Jones, and then Jones and DC. It's the biggest rivalry in UFC history. They genuinely hate each other, and again, it would be a horrible way to go out for DC to think he would fight Jones and lose again. But I also think it would be the biggest payday of his career, and you go out with a bang whether you win or lose. You would always. I think it would be hard for him to say no to that, knowing DC, the competitor. And I think Stipe would fight whoever. I don't think he's not bothered.
Yeah, exactly. And it's part of the bargaining power to say, hey, John, you can fight Cormier, you can fight Miocic, but you can be, like Cormier, you can be a double weight champion. And don't worry, we're not going to strip you. We're not going to strip you as long as you agree to do this fight in New Year. And then, you have to do a light heavyweight, keep whatever it is. But if you do this for us, we will not strip you. And because his skills, he deserves to have one on that shoulder and one on that shoulder.
And pretty much now, to be considered the GOAT, you've got to be a double champ, haven't you? You need to add that to today. And I think that's how. I mean, we're looking ahead here. We've not even had this fight on Sunday yet, which is incredible. But just as a little close to the podcast, I think the future is interesting for DC. And as much as we might be wrong, he might well take his gloves off, put them down in the octagon. And even if we do see that on Sunday, I'm not convinced that's the last time we see DC. I'm really not. So, but we'll see anyway. I'm looking forward to it.
That's it.
Hey, it's been nice chatting to you.
Yeah, you too, mate. And enjoy the fights, enjoy the sport this weekend, and we'll catch up soon, and we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how right or wrong we were on everything. So there we go.
If anyone can think of a name for this shit show, let us know.
Matt, I agree. Take care, mate.